talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
We want peace and security and stability.
There will be no shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for us.
My hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Hello viewers, welcome to Global Television. My name is Edikan Michael and good to have you join us this afternoon. Sub-Saharan Africa's economic growth dropped to 3.6% in 2022 from about 4.1% in 2021 and is expected to dip to 3.1% in 2023. Global economic sluggishness, lingering inflation and tough financial conditions with high debt has contributed to this decline. There are a number of reasons for Africa's poor economy. Historically, even though Africa had a number of empires trading with many parts of the world. In line with the resolve to build and empower entrepreneurs across Africa, starting with Nigeria, founder of African Economic Merit Awards, Mziva Tomufe is with me in the studio to discuss on Africa's economy. Good to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Let's get a big light on Africa. You've been one of those agitating, for economic empowerment of Africans. And of course, I understand that your group, EMA, has actually been found in all nooks and crannies of Africa. What are those challenges, grassroots challenges that we can say are the problem that has hindered the growth of Africa?
As the founder of African Economic Merit Awards, a Pan-African organization with presence in 17 African countries, we have identified with very young, talented, brilliant Africans to find out that as much as we have problems facing the African economy from the top of the hem of affairs, we also have lots of problems we need to address from the grassroots. That is why African Economic Merit Awards has created partnerships with different NGOs at a grassroots level to be able to leverage on the government existing programs and policies, and also implementing this project is working collectively with NGOs at a grassroots level. And of recent, as a Pan-African organization, we have also identified a dire need to tackle the issue when it comes to entrepreneurship. For instance, if we look at China, if we look at Singapore, entrepreneurship has actually added so much value in the development of the economy. So we decided, like last year, this idea came up, and we decided to build a project to harness the African entrepreneurship industry by creating the EMA Inspire University Tour, which is a project. As we continue to talk, I will give insight about this, as how this project will create employment and reduce unemployment in the African economy.
Now let's look at Africa with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. There are a lot of achievement, about 17 of them, where we, of course, zero to poverty and all of that, good water, access to good health and all of that. This has hindered the growth of Africa. We find where our people are still found one thing in this aspect. And some countries, as you said, are not really tracking the way forward. Are we far from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals?
If you look at in year 2000, there were projections into 2020 to 2025 on sustainable development goals by the United Nations. Well, now we have good policies, we have good programs in Africa, in Nigeria, but the problem we are facing right now is implementation. implementation has caused a lot of setbacks in Nigeria.
So there are already policies that are existing?
There are policies that are existing. There are policies that are good to build a better continent for each and every one of us to live in. Sustainable development could have good water, good schools, but if you look at the education system, the education system actually, I will start from Nigeria. It's not as if we do not have schools. We have schools, but what we are lacking is the training and retraining of teachers. When the teachers are not being, it's like an iron being kept in a storeroom. It's become rusty, and you cannot use it for what you're meant to use it for anymore. So the teachers needs to be retrained and trained and retrained continuously by also equipping the schools.
And that's on the side of government?
Yes, this is a side. It's not just the government side alone.
Okay.
It is a PPP project, which, well, the government is actually the people who make the policies.
Major stakeholders.
Yeah, the major stakeholders who make the policies that guide each and every one of us who are in the private sector. As someone who is running an NGO across Africa, it is something, there are some policies that the government needs to lift to make this project easy for us to work on and do, so that the people can benefit a lot from it. So there are existing policies, there are existing programs. How do we make it easy for us to implement this project? That is why we have to call on the government to address some of these issues for each and every one of us. Have continuous dialogue with private sectors and also NGOs to see how we can also work collectively to make sure that we implement this project at a grassroots the more, so that we can lift more people out of poverty, create more employment, better housing for the people. Yes.
And from there we cannot be able to at least attempt to track the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now let's come back to the issue of insecurity. This has actually hindered a lot of growth also, if you can agree with me. You know, the food declaration by President Tinubu, food emergency, that is trying to make sure that we have food. If you go to the market now, I don't know how recent you've been to the market, there are high prices of cost of food items. This is what a common Nigerian, in Africa at large, could be able to afford. So there's no movement of food, and the insecurity has been one of the challenges, because farmers are not in the farm, and this has hindered food production. Why are we still having, in the bit that we have had policies on ground, we are having service chief promising us that they are on ground to work, why are we still having this issue of insecurity, and what is the way forward?
Insecurity has been costing I'm a Nigerian, so I'll address it from the Nigerian perspective. Insecurity is, well, I will commend the Nigerian Armed Forces for the job done so far. The most difficult aspect of tackling insecurity is when it's being affected internally, not externally. So I believe that the government is doing everything possible for them to eradicate insecurity in Nigeria. But I'll bring it back to education and lack of employment in the Nigerian system. Now, education play a key role by improving the state of security in our dear country, Nigeria. Why did I say this? Because I believe that if lots of people get the basic education and are able to fend for their loved ones, we will be able to an extent curb insecurity, because insecurity is being caused by hunger, unemployment. So what African Economic Merit Awards is doing is this, because when a student in the university is done from school as a graduate, gets into the labor market, 5 years, 6 years, no job. It is time we put an end to that. Now, everyone cannot become an entrepreneur, because we believe if we empower an entrepreneur, that entrepreneur will be able to employ at least 4 to 5 persons. And
by taking about 5%
from the huge reduction in the unemployment market.
Absolutely.
Now, if we do this, we will be able to curb unemployment and insecurity in the country, because there are two things that I can tie to insecurity. when it comes to information, it has to do with being educated. And for you to be educated, you need a good job to cater for those who are easy to be deceived into getting to terrorism and all of that.
So in a bit of this, should we just leave this to government?
Government owns the military. Government directs the military. The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So we cannot leave it to the government alone. No. We as a people, we need to take responsibility of going back to parental care and informing our peers and educating them on how to live a decent life. Because if we know the people who live around our community and we can inform them or educate them as well on insecurity, there will be reduction, because for these people to recruit more of terrorists into their own cabal, if these people are educated, there will be drastic reduction of insecurity in Nigeria.
Education is one of the solutions that we cannot be able to track so that we can solve the issue of insecurity in Nigeria and of course in Africa at large. We'll go on a short break, and once we return, we'll still be talking to Mr. Tomefe, the founder of EMA. Don't go away. Keep watching.
Talk about the Civil War, but we seem to ignore the fact that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious
Was it good?
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
We want peace and security and stability.
There'll be no shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for
My hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.
Still watching Global Television. On the Perspective of the program, we explore on issues. And of course, I would know the studio, Mr. Tomefe, the founder of EMA, still exploring on the issues that has to do with Africa at large. Let's come back home. Our president has been appointed as the ECOWAS chairman. And of course, this is a time where Nigeria will not just be behind. This time we are in the forefront of trying to see how we can contribute, to the peace, the unity, and the progress of African continent. What does this mean to Nigeria?
It is an open door for Nigeria to show exemplary leadership in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
I congratulate the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for emerging as the leader of the ECOWAS. Because one, and for the land borders to be opened, it's a way of also moving across and also open doors for food importation and exportation. And I believe that's also an avenue for us to generate economic growth and also income in the Nigerian system. So it's an applause for him, and I congratulate him. And I believe that opening the borders as well will create an economic growth in the Nigerian system.
The Inspire University tour by Africa Economic Merit Award over times what impact has it yielded? What result can you show?
EMA Inspire University tour. Well, before EMA Inspire University tour, African Economic Merit Awards, which was founded in 2015. Since this organization was founded, we have been able to build partnerships with different organizations, and we have done a whole lot of developmental projects, and also we've introduced programs and policies to different bodies, government bodies across Africa. Like we're one of the highest medical contributors in the largest slum in Kenya, which is Kibera. And also we once eradicated snake bites in a community in Ghana. We've done a whole lot in Nigeria as well, and in other African countries. So African Economic Merit Awards is beyond just AIMA, but AIMA Inspire University Tour, it's a pet project of the African Economic Merit Awards, which started last week. We started last year, sorry. And last year event was beautiful. Lots of lives were touched. Students were inspired. So we introduced an added value to this project by giving the students grants to start up a business, which we believe preparing them for the future and also creating employment in the Nigerian system and reducing unemployment, because we believe as much entrepreneurs we're able to create, we're reducing the pain, we're reducing the weight around the neck of the government. So this will be an income generation for the country. It will give the country a facelift, not just the country as well, Africa. And through this initiative, lots of entrepreneurs will be raised, a lot of creative minds will come up, and I can assure you this, with AIMA Inspire University Tour, we will be creating sand mine in the technology area, and also building likes of the Mark Zuckerberg and co. Because what we have gotten so far, the responses we have gotten so far, is mind-blowing. Nigerian youth are one of the most brilliant people that you can ever come across in the world.
Nigerian youths are brilliant people you can ever come across the world. This is coming from the founder of Africa Economic Merit Award. Now let's look at the issue of leadership. Not too young to run bills, of course, sign into law. And some people arguing we have not have not too old to run. So that once you're saying give the young people a chance, we're also saying give the old people to go. But some also argue that there are some argument on the wisdom of the old, that we sometimes maybe need to mix all of this together. How do you see the youths in Africa generally? And of course, assessing the political scene, we still find it very difficult for you to be able to penetrate. What are those things that you can assess to be the issue?
Michael, if you look at this carefully, leadership is a price that needs to be paid, that needs to be learned, and that needs to be unlearned. Each and every one as a youth that wants to get involved in policy making and building programs, we cannot discard or discredit what the leaders in Nigeria, Africa has been able to achieve so far by uniting each and every one of us. For us as youth to mount that power, there are things we need to learn from them by stooping low, learn and unlearn to be able to build a better leadership. They're not too young to run, Bill, brilliant. But it is not because the bill was being passed, everyone wants to lead. Everyone cannot lead. Do you know the most powerful people are people who follow, not even the leaders. So if you learn to follow, you learn to lead correctly. Today is Nelson Mandela Day. One of the greatest leaders Africa ever produced. The Nelson Mandela that we speak about today, that we listen to his treasured words today, was once a follower. He wasn't the best among the people, among his peers. He wasn't the best, but he was able to learn from them and unlearn from them to build the character that he has left behind. So, as a young people, we have the baton with us. We believe that to rule this country or to rule Africa, to lead Africa, it is to create a continent that is admired by every other continent across the globe, and not to bring it to chaos. So what we need right now, it is the full support of the government. Now, like I said earlier on, not everyone will lead, but for those who God has ordained to lead, may they get to that place and lead right.
Those that have been opportune, of course, are advised to lead right when you have the opportunity to.
And I want to add something to it. For all those who are well educated and refined, please do not leave the leadership baton to charlatans. Because if we leave the leadership baton to charlatans, we will have a chaotic continent, we will have a chaotic country called Nigeria. So we have to learn to speak up, we have to learn to participate, and we have to learn to march together collectively.
Just in a minute, why can you describe the digital economy? You know, because from COVID 2020, you know, African was not prepared for such a time. Just shortly, what can you advise African countries in the regards and embracement of the digital economy? Because some countries are, of course, just like Nigeria, the laws are still, you know, not too open for digitalization to come into the process, and these as in that are good. Just because we know that, you know, fintech companies, the rise of fintech companies, and all of those digital platforms, or even in transportation, you know, the introduction of Uber and Bolt services, this has helped, you know, a lot of diverse structures and, you know, systems. What can you say that Africa are lacking in regards to digital economy?
I know we are not there yet as Africans.
Are we even attempting at all?
Yes, we are attempting. Look at Flutterwave. Look at our banking system. Even if we have a whole lot to go, we have a long way to go.
Our government are there embracing all of these ideas.
Yeah, they are, and they are supporting it the best way they can. But I think effort needs to be put in the more, because one, the private sector is doing everything possible to make sure that we have a well-organized and digitalized economy. Yes, because one, let me give you an instance. If you want the Nigerian or the African banking system or the transportation system to run like what we have in Europe, it will be, because I believe to create a better digitalized system, it will take lots of fundings, which the resources to fund these are not on ground. Yes. So that is why African Economic Merit Awards is building these entrepreneurs and also collaborating with the right bodies to be able to implement a higher level digitalized economy. Because the youth are the future. Yeah, the young ones are the ones who are going to actually build this. So for them to build a resourceful, digitalized economy, this is the right time to tap into them. Yes.
All right, we'll be running off now. Before we go, can you talk about the university tour, the season 2 or the program 2?
Okay, Amo Inspire University tour on the 20th of July this year, that's on Thursday, will be at the University of Abuja to select some entrepreneurs, to select some students who have actually submitted their grant proposition to our proposals to start up a project that will become a different shift in their career. So it's a day that we will have different speakers on that day, like Dr. Olushola Aloko, we have Buffy Ujioka, and also Jafet Amojua. I myself will be there. We have the Israel ambassador who will also be present there, and other partners will be present, and it will be a day that a lot of students will learn, unlearn, and relearn.
Despite the confluence of multiple shocks, the African region is projected to grow at the second fastest rate in the world in 2023 to 2024, demonstrating the resilience of its economies. In 2023 to 2024, Africa's average real GDP growth projected at 4.1%, up from 3.8%, will surpass the global average of 2.9% and Europe's 1.1%. It was a delight to analyze the economic situations in Africa, joining by the founder and president of Africa Economic Merit Award, Mr. Tomofe. It was a pleasure to have you join us on the show this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Viewers, keep watching Global Television. My name remains Edikan Michael.
talk about the Civil War, but we seem to
Can
ignore
I give you a good show?
that it was the manipulation of ethno-religious sentiment.
I think this is a negative part of what we're experiencing.
We want peace and security and stability.
There'll be no shooting anymore.
We must come together as Nigerians.
We are brothers and sisters. Nigeria first before your politics.
We're all engaged in trying to keep the country united.
For a nation to develop, conflicts must be minimized.
Peace and stability is extremely important for
My hope and prayer is that the Nigerian of our dream will be achieved.